Hello YouTube, this is dvdreviewsstudios here, and today I'm going to be doing a video consisting of my top 10 most underrated movies of all time, which I've gone through my Blu-ray and DVD collection and picked out 10 movies that I personally think are much better than people give them credit for, and I'm hoping people who view this video will be able to take away quite a few recommendations. So first up at number 10 we have Blitz, starring Jason Statham and Paddy Considine. Quite an interesting crime thriller serial killer movie which has a very unlikely duo, but really did make for a great on-screen performance. We have a really great cameo of David Morsey, who people will most likely know for portraying the governor in The Walking Dead, and the film itself was pretty fantastic. We have two cops investigating a cop killer, portrayed by Aidan Gillen, who I guess was okay. It was a very unique performance of kind of a quirky, eccentric serial killer, which I didn't really think was as good. I guess it was okay, but I was anticipating a little bit more from the character, and overall I thought the ending was very satisfying in particular, so that's Blitz. Next up we have A Walk Among the Tombstones, starring Liam Neeson as Detective Matt Scudder. This movie is based on the novels by Lawrence Block, which I'm still yet to check out and really do want to, because I really did enjoy this movie. It's got a very low rating for some bizarre reason, I guess because Liam Neeson does do this kind of character in pretty much every movie he ever does. But I thought the film itself was really captivating. I thought his performance in particular was fantastic, and I thought the overall villains in this movie were really cool, and the relationship that he shares with the child was kind of okay, I guess. It probably wasn't as relevant in this movie, but I reckon it's probably much more substantial in the book, which I'm yet to read and really do want to, and I thought this movie was quite successful. I really do hope to see some sequels, so that's A Walk Among the Tombstones. Next up we have Reign Over Me, starring Adam Sandler and Don Cheadle. Yes, an Adam Sandler movie, but thankfully not a comedy. This movie is actually really depressing, a really tragic story of Adam Sandler's character of Charlie Feynman, who lost his family in the 9/11 terrorist attack, and he bumps into his old college friend, portrayed by Don Cheadle, who sees him in such an awful state and hopes to just try and turn his life around and hopefully just bring some light to his life. So yeah, a really captivating film. I thought Adam Sandler's performance was really gripping, and I really wish he'd done more films like this. This is an absolutely amazing film, so that's Reign Over Me. Next up we have The Terminal, directed by Steven Spielberg, starring Tom Hanks. I don't really see this movie brought up as often when Steven Spielberg is spoken of. I really do wish this movie had a lot more recognition. I thought this film was absolutely hilarious, really heartwarming. I thought the character of Victor Navorsky, portrayed by Tom Hanks, was hilarious. Of course, a very funny foreigner trapped in an airport. Really great overall, and I thought just some of the best cinematography I've seen from Spielberg, so that's The Terminal. Next up we have Robot and Frank, starring Frank Langella. From the trailer, I literally thought this was going to be an old man having an abusive relationship with a robot, but it's very, very different. Frank Langella's character unfortunately suffers from Alzheimer's, and his grandchildren give him a robot because they live too far away to actually take care of him themselves. And because Frank Langella's character is a little bit kind of eccentric himself, he's actually a thief, and he programs the robot to help him on a couple of heists, which is quite an interesting concept for this film, which I definitely would recommend. So that's Robot and Frank. Next up we have Man on a Ledge, which was honestly one of my all-time favourite movies quite a while ago, and I recently rewatched this, and it's just really rekindled my love for the movie. I think Sam Worthington's character is fantastic. I think Ed Harris is the main villain. It was amazing, and some of the cinematography in this, especially the aerial shots, is fantastic, and I think the storyline overall is very underrated, and was really well performed. So that's Man on a Ledge. Next up we have Serenity, the conclusion to Joss Whedon's series Firefly, which came to a very abrupt end, which was really irritating. This movie unfortunately has a very low rating, which I really did not expect. I thought the ending to this film was fantastic, really great performances from all the characters, and I think the Reavers are just absolutely menacing. We actually get to see the Reavers, who are the main villains in the Firefly universe. We get to see them properly in this movie, and they are just horrifying. So I definitely would recommend checking out Firefly, and definitely follow up with Serenity, a really great martial arts movie. Next up we have Submarine, which features one of the, I can't remember his name, but he was featured in one of the old CBBC shows, which I guess is kind of okay. So this is Submarine, directed by Richard Ayoade, who people will know as Moss from the IT Crowd, and this movie I thought was really captivating. It's based on a book which I bought but I haven't read yet, unfortunately. I'm looking forward to doing so, and it's more or less a coming-of-age story, and is very dark in some areas, but I thought this film was actually quite good, and it has a really nice soundtrack by Alex Turner, so I definitely would recommend this. So that's Submarine. Next up we have Mr. Brooks, another crime thriller movie about a serial killer portrayed by Kevin Costner, and he ends up getting caught in the act by Dane Cook, who is more or less a guy who wants to aspire to become a serial killer, and unfortunately falls into the wrong hands, and from there it plummets, and it's overall quite an interesting movie. I would definitely recommend checking out Mr. Brooks. Next up for number 1, we have Crime and Punishment, one of my all-time favourite movies. This is technically a TV movie released by the BBC, but I thought this movie was definitely worth putting at number 1 in this list because I thought it was absolutely tremendous. It stars John Sim, who's my favourite British actor, and this is an adaptation from the original novel by Fyodor Dostoevsky, and the film itself is amazing. I thought John Sim's performance as Rodion Romanovich Raskolnikov was overall one of the best, and just one of the most overwhelming performances of the character. Really, really accurate to what he is in the book, maybe a little bit darker actually than what the character is in the book, but overall I thought the character was fantastic, really great performances all around. It stars Ian McDiarmid, who portrayed Emperor Palpatine in the Star Wars movies, if you're not familiar with the actor, and his character in this of Porfiry Petrovich was hilarious, especially in the interrogation scenes when he's brutally trying to make John Sim's character confess to the crime of brutally murdering a poor old woman who was a pawnbroker in order to steal her jewels and become rich, basically. So yeah, really great movie. I thought the decline of the character, of realising what he has done and coming to terms with the crime, was fantastic, and overall I think the ending is one of the most satisfying endings in any movie. So that's Crime and Punishment. If you are intrigued to watch that movie, the full thing is on YouTube. It's aired in 2 parts, 2 episodes basically, both an hour and a half each, so it's a 3-hour movie and definitely worth watching. If you're going to watch any movie from my list of recommendations, definitely make it Crime and Punishment. You will not regret it. And if you are intrigued by that movie, definitely pick up the novel afterwards, which I unfortunately should have read the book first of all, but some of the dialect, this was originally translated from Russian, and some of the dialect is really complicated, especially some of the names such as Rodion Romanovich Raskolnikov, which is just the main character. So if you want to check out the novel, probably watch the movie first of all if you're not really familiar with this kind of thing, but I thought the novel was fantastic as well, and definitely gives a lot more depth to what the movie offered. So that's been my list of my top 10 most underrated movies of all time. Let me know what you think of these movies in the comments. Would you consider any of these any good at all? If you've checked out any of these movies, by all means let me know in the comments. I'm very intrigued to know what people's opinions are. For movies that I would definitely recommend taking away from this video, make it Crime and Punishment, Mr. Brooks, Submarine, maybe Serenity, and I would definitely recommend watching Reign Over Me for such an evocative and powerful movie. So thanks for watching this video. Be sure to leave a like down below, comment below, and subscribe for more content.